Hello, NHIO. It's the web shop you need to know.
The web shop everybody needs to know. NHIO, it's the web shop.
Web shop you need to know. Tools, decals, files, and much more. Tools and decals, files, and much more. So don't lose time and visit the store. Visit the store. NHIO, NHIO. Spend $50 or if you like even more to enjoy free shipping, free gift of your choice. To enjoy free shipping and free gift of your choice.
Free gift of your choice. NHIO, NHIO, NHIO.
Welcome to this special episode of The Model Philosopher. Tonight we'll be talking about a new prize in the modelling and miniatures world, the Upturner Prize for Art in Modelling. This is an annual prize supported by AK Interactive for modellers who choose to be different. Before we get onto the nature of the prize and the modelling we're looking for, I'd like to introduce you to the jury panel who will be judging this year's prize. They are Robert Crombeecke, Tue Kaae, Calvin Tan, Marijn van Gils, and myself, Chris Meddings. Robert has had a foot in both sides of the hobby, in figures and scale models, for many years, and runs Scale Model Challenge, a show that has always promoted the most creative aspects of the hobby. In the last couple of years, Robert has also sought to bring non-traditional miniature artists to the show, with exhibitions at Scale Model Challenge for Harry Arling of Cosmotronics, Jaris van Os, and Wijnand Driesen. Tue has been an advocate of turning figure painting on its head, throwing out convention and the prioritisation of technique over substance, and is a strong advocate of creativity and originality in figure modelling and painting. Calvin Tan is a world-renowned historical miniatures painter and a professional art educator. Calvin and I also discussed art and modelling in episode 1 of The Model Philosopher. Marijn is a polymath in modelling, tackling all genres as if they were the same, with equal vigour, enthusiasm and success. Like the others, Marijn has always championed originality in modelling and modellers who see the hobby differently. All right, gentlemen, welcome to the Upturner Prize panel. Thank you for joining us. I think the first thing we need to do is work out what we actually mean by art in modelling. What do we think art is in modelling? And I'll start with Calvin.
Well, in a nutshell, can the piece of work evoke an emotional response from the audience? I think that's the key thing. So that's what we are looking at, an emotional response. Because ultimately, what we are looking at in terms of any art piece of work, what you're trying to do is you're crafting and you're designing and crafting an emotional response from an audience. You know, whether they want you to laugh at it, you want them to cry at it, or you want them, to go wow. I think that's something that's the artist, him or herself, should consider, with the end in mind. And I think that's the case. More often so, I think with our current trends, or the trend has been around for such a long time, is basically there is a very, very strong emphasis on just purely the craft, and not so much in terms of the content, or rather the what do you call that, the experience, all right, of actually looking at the model. People are just looking in terms of seeing it just as a token or a reference to something that is larger. But and we want to extend beyond that. Can it also, can it be a medium to communicate emotions as well? I think that's something. That's a frontier that we have not really explored in great depth.
Tue, what do you think?
I definitely echo the thing about provoking emotion. So my agenda is to actually get the figure art into museums. I want this to be like its own art form. And right now we are not quite there. And this is very much in the infancy. But I mean, the show's only really got a storytelling or ambient category like 5 or 6 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
7 maybe. So it is pretty new. And a lot of people only do things that push their boundaries in order to go to shows. So we need categories and we need stuff like this prize to push that agenda. So I think we're getting there. I think that a lot of the usual parts of miniature painting is getting a little stale because it's only about skill. Skill and paint application has been refined over many years by now, and we're getting to a point where it's pretty difficult to improve anything anymore.
It's sort of plateaued. It's everybody's using the same ingredients, getting the same flavors.
Yeah,
You know.
if you look at figure painting through time, there's constantly been new things added. Like you would paint with only oils, then you would add acrylics, you would add powder pigments, you would add water slide transfers or whatever. It's constantly like an improvement of the current thing by
Mhm.
adding extra ingredients. And it means that it gets more and more difficult to master all of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think narrative is also an ingredient that you can put into miniature art to make miniatures better. I mean, for me, a German soldier is just not as good as a German soldier doing something relatable.
Well, German soldiers point, huh?
Yeah, and pointing is relatable, but I would like something a little more deep, just a little bit.
A bit more sign languages.
Yeah. So to me, most miniatures are it's like a model of something that could happen, but they're not very relatable. I mean, I'm more of a fantasy miniature painter, but I'm leaning more and more into the historical side because I want to provoke emotions,
Mhm.
and in order to provoke emotions, it needs to be relatable. You need to be able to feel how it is. So it's very difficult to get people emotional about an orc because no one knows what it feels to be an orc.
That's true.
But being a German soldier, I'm closer to that because I know some of it. So I think it's easier in that way. I don't think it's impossible to do the other stuff, but I'm sort of transitioning that way. But I think it needs to be relatable and provoke an emotion before it's actually like proper good storytelling miniature art.
Marijn, what's your point of view?
Well, in that sense, I would argue that narrative is more than just an extra ingredient. It's the key part, and the other elements they are just means to get to that end. So narrative, okay, storytelling could be one part, but evoking an emotion can also be done not just by a story, can also by putting a certain atmosphere into something, transmitting some kind of idea. I think I agree with well everybody so far that it's all about communication, provoking an emotion, expressing yourself as a modeler, and trying to transmit some of your expression to the person that views it. It's all about the communication. At least if we're talking about modeling in an artistic way. Of course, if you just want to do it in a crafts way, perfectly fine to focus on the technique. If you want to have a more artistic element to it, then the communication is key, and the technique doesn't become the primary goal. It becomes the means to get to the primary goal, the communication.
It's a vehicle to get to the idea, to realize the idea.
Exactly.
I was just thinking about the plateau that Calvin was just mentioning. The thing is, I think at the plateau where a lot of people are right now, it's getting very busy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the key, most of this stuff that I wanted to say has already been said, so I won't repeat all that. But I think, like Marijn said, if you really want to make another step, you have to jump off the edge of that plateau and see where you land. Now that might be very tricky and very bumpy when you go that way. But you just need to explore more of the possibilities, and all these possibilities can even just be in the world around you. But I think a lot of people in this hobby are only focused on doing it like other people do their stuff, whether that be figure painting or armor modeling or aircraft or whatever. But you see people every now and then that really do, even with an aircraft, where you think, which is what can you do with an aircraft? But there's someone very close who also lives in this city who does amazing stuff with aircraft, and just he does crazy shit. I mean, that's what he does, and it just looks amazing. And for the purists, it may not be that great, but for me, that approach, just doing something totally different with all the skills involved, I think that makes something very special. And like I said, just jump over the edge of the plateau and go to places that nobody has ever been before.
I think that's possibly the hardest part. I mean, I know
it is
when I've tried to do some in my own practice, you tend to sort of fall back into the same tram lines you've always been on of doing what you've always done, because it's comfortable, familiar territory, and you're used to building on what you do and so on. It's very hard to change the way you think. And there are very few people that do something completely different.
So it's also about mindsets, because if they're going to think about something original, they first have to discover who they are. And the thing is that each and every one of us we are unique, and we see the world in a very different perspective, based on our upbringing, our cultures, and whatever. And I think that's every man's brain is like a melting pot. It's a combination of a lot of things. There's five of us here. We see the world differently, and therefore we model differently as well. No two figures can be painted alike, even in the competition stands, even if they're following the box art. You will find that there will be certain slight differences. And I think that's where the uniqueness comes in, and that's possibly where we can tap on this uniqueness to find something and discover something original. And I think one of the problems that we have in terms of this, why we are unable to break through from this, is because modeling has its roots as a it's more like all those are miniature representations of something larger. So what we are looking at are just what you call that direct representations. And all along, like for example, if you're looking at the IPMS model of judging, they're looking at how close is your miniature is with the actual artifact.
Close to reality, yeah.
Yeah, as close to reality as possible. And that is the legacy that we need to shed if we're going to go to the new into the new domain.
It's really important to point out that is 100% valid way of modeling, of representing the real thing, and that's kind of the mainstream of modeling. We're not talking about
of course
changing modeling with this. We're just talking about, we said this before, so you're looking at me like you already said this, but before I started recording, we're talking about adding to modeling rather than changing modeling. So this is something, when people do this, it's just a not new, but yeah, slightly different way to do it is all.
Don't you think that the way that we structure the competitions, for example, kind of pushes people to finish their models in a certain way?
Well, it could. I think it could. I mean, it would change. I think once you change the perspective on certain things, it may, influence them to complete their models in a certain way as well. It's all about, it's the mindset. It's a mode of thinking, And I think it's good. It may be refreshing as well, Like say for example, if you're gonna build, let's say, figures are figures. It's easier to express humanity through figures, but is there a way to express humanity through a tank or an aircraft? That's the challenge, right? That's the challenge, because the thing is that if you look at an aircraft or a tank, it's no different from still life, all right, or even a landscape. It's a scene, all right. when why can't you convey the what do you call that, the hollowness of humanity in a tank or even in a scene. You don't need to really have people to be in a scene to tell a story sometimes. But if there are, like, that's where, for example, in photography, there are certain scenes with the appropriate lighting, and that moment you can capture a moment with a camera, and it can evoke a sentiment.
Yeah.
You know.
But it's always easier, and that's the thing. It's always easier
Yes.
to express grief or any other feeling with a figure,
Yes.
with the
Correct.
stance or the expression or whatever.
Correct.
So, and I'm sorry for this ad, but the reason that at SMC we have for in the scale modeling side of the competition, we only have one diorama class, well, two, one for standard, one for masters.
Yep.
Because we always say that you can tell exactly the same story with a tank and a soldier, or, sorry for saying this, with a dragon and a smurf in front of it. You can tell exactly the same story. And for some people that is very difficult to grasp, because they always think in, everybody thinks in boxes. It has to be military, it has to be aircraft, it has to be blah, 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 blah. And I mean, that's also a way of breaking through, that you just try to, just tell the story, have that same narrative in any way you want. I mean, but that takes imagination sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's a challenge, I think, that we're looking for.
Yep, and in fact that's the more difficult part, because there are no available solutions.
No.
Unlike painting, right? If you go back to your references, okay, I'll paint this pattern, I'll paint it this color and all this, right? Information is pretty there.
Yeah.
Like, for example, historical subjects is very easy. All you need to go take a trip to the museums, buy all the books. You will know what to paint, how to paint it. Basically, that's there. But to use that and to bring it to another new level, and to tell the sorrow of, for example, a soldier receiving a letter saying that his hometown's been bombed,
Mhm.
his parents are dead, and how do you convey that loss, that emotion in there? Now that's another thing altogether, right?
Mhm.
And nobody has even figured out how to sort of pack emotions into a miniature, right? A 4x4 centimeter base. How do you pack that emotion into that?
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Robert, I've been thinking, I don't agree that you can tell the same story with any miniature. I think miniature choice is definitely a big part of what we do. So I think that it's very difficult to tell a story with a tank or with a bust, especially like a fantasy bust or something. And if you have 3 or 4 full-scale miniatures that you can pose, it's way easier to tell that story. And there are definitely stories that you can't tell. Like, you can't have a miniature of a child and tell a story about the loss of a child, because it's just not possible. So miniature choice is definitely a big part of it. And I think some of what we are fighting is that the miniature market doesn't cater to this. So a lot of people need either to find prints or commission people or do heavy conversion in order to get miniatures that more closely convey the stories that they're telling. I mean, you
Yep.
can tell a lot of story from, a bust or a miniature without a head or whatever,
Uh-huh.
but it's not an easy thing to get into
No.
if none of the producers are doing stuff that makes it more approachable for you.
Well, so that's why I think that's why it's challenging. And it really, and the challenge comes in not being able to find ready figures to convey your ideas. That's where the creativity comes into, like, innovating ways to tell the story. And the thing is about the creativity is that it is a problem solving mechanism that we all have as humans. There's no food now. How are we gonna get food? It's a survival mechanism that we have that's embedded in all of us. That's creativity, basically. All right, to survive. But once basically we have a roof on our heads, our bellies are full, this faculty in our minds starts to get restless. And that's where we start to do stuff like, do music, arts, and all this, where our creativity can flourish and can be engaged. And that's what we're looking. We play games as well. We play chess. We play games, and all these the activities actually do engage the the creative zones in our brain. And the interesting thing neurologically, they are combined with the reward system in our brain. It's that's the difference between puzzles and chores, right? If you ask me to do my laundry, wash the toilet, it's a chore. It's not fun. But you turn it into the game, suddenly, and there's incentive system in there, it hits the reward systems in our brain. Suddenly it becomes a fun thing. I will do it every day now. You take something that's boring and yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that when you're looking at creativity, we can also find not just creativity in storytelling, but also in terms of innovative new techniques that has been developed to tell the story. So that is something that we can also actually look at when you talk about creativity as well.
Yeah, I think also creativity, originality comes in several shapes. Like indeed, the story can be original, but also just the subject matter can also be original or not original, or the idea in general, what you're trying to transmit. But on the other hand, like you just touched on, the way you execute it, the way you deal with your subject, that can also be done in a original way, in a new way, and it can come down to applying new techniques. But it can also be about how you apply existing techniques to it and what kind of balance you find between them. Can also be an important way of innovating.
Because my take on this is that if this competition were to really sort of, if we're going to push for it, what we're trying to do here is eventually is to try to push people to push the boundaries, stretch it, and to sort of, create something that is very refreshing that we have not seen before. That's outside of the conventional rules.
It's a big challenge, though.
Yeah, I mean,
something we've never seen before.
Correct, exactly, and that's what is exciting.
Yeah, and it's why it's risky. Like, a lot of people, most people look for reward.
Yes.
You're talking about reward centers, and one of them is social affirmation. So you want to do stuff that your friends, your peers would like to see. And doing something that hasn't been seen before is way more risky if what you want is but you're getting more stuff, Robert. God damn it.
Yeah, the idea here is that we want to have this competition as a safe place to try out ideas that you might not think that you want to try in, like, for example, a serious competition like Golden Demon or SMC or even the Fan Show or anywhere else. It's like something like, okay, let's try something playful, all right? And let's throw it there and see.
But why wouldn't you try it in a serious competition?
Well, the thing is that for some people, right, they want to, for the serious competition, right, there's other things involved, like, they got commission jobs and things like this. There's a certain politics to that. But for this, it's just purely, no collector is going to look at this and buy the stuff there.
Oh, you never know.
You never know. But we never know if it works. If it works, it works. But generally, this is something very experimental. And that's what we want to do. Keep it loose, casual, experimental. And also with competitions, right? The criteria are very different, and that's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Because we may get a piece that has a very good story, very original, very refreshing, but technically it may not be very strong, but it does resonate with more people, and then that may actually get a prize compared to if it was, being judged at a different show. You have a different set of judges who are just looking in terms of the rendering. And they say, no, we can't award this, because the rendering is no good. There's a lot of, you forgot to fill the hole here, or things like this, Yeah. So for us, I think we need to understand, what do we want to create, and what's the nucleus of what we want to achieve with this competition, right? And I think we want to send a message to people that, hey, this is a safe like a contest. It's a safe contest for you to experiment with your wacky ideas. And pushing the boundaries.
Wacky ideas.
So I wanna open a medium-sized can of worms here. You're talking about a technical proficiency. You're talking about the quality.
No, I'm talking. No, not specifically.
No. But we've been talking about like the quality of the paint jobs in the storytelling category
Yep.
is often not as rendered as stuff in other categories. But
Yes.
the way that we talk about technical proficiency and execution and paint application is really, really narrow. So if you look, Robert, you were talking about Rembrandt earlier,
Yeah.
and I actually happened to see a Rembrandt picture in the same time period as well.
Okay.
And if you look at the way that he paints,
Yeah.
it is very sketchy. It is
Yeah.
like he's using the consistency of the oil paint.
Yeah.
But no one would dream of saying that Rembrandt is not a good painter.
No.
So I think that we need to look at paint application and how skillful that is in a broader spectrum,
Yes, we do.
because a lot of storytelling pieces, they don't perform as well if you do everything to the highest level
All right.
from a realism perspective.
Okay, so I will also argue with that, because the thing is that, let's say if we place a Vermeer next to a Rembrandt, all right?
Yep.
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 I hands down, I'll go for the Vermeer, because
Mhm.
hands down I'll go for the
Almost.
Vermeer, because Vermeer evokes a certain mood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Compared to Rembrandt, and Rembrandt was a commercial artist. He's a commercial artist.
Yep.
And his stuff is not his stuff is not really like some of his, and most of his stuff, most of his paintings were commissions,
Yes.
portraits and all this.
Probably
And that's
probably not
what,
even painted by him all
yeah, it
completely.
could be, yeah, it could be, because he has a studio. There's a lot of apprentice. So and you can see that some of his paintings, right? Some of his notable paintings, you can see there's some problems with anatomy as well. But
But right
yeah,
now we're looking at all of figure painting simply from the perspective of how close to Vermeer is this, or how close to our sort of established idea about the pinnacle.
okay, so the thing is that for Vermeer, there is also the mood together with the technique. It's combined together to help. When we look at it, right, you feel there's an emotion
Yes.
with the light and the composition. It must be a combination. So we are not looking at just the technique itself. Does the technique support the storytelling? But the main thing is that everything has to come together, so that when you look at it, it's a fantastic experience. You're able to look at it and say, wow, it's very well painted. But at the same time, I can get the feeling, of what he's trying to convey. And I want to look at it more. I would like to get a chair and I'll sit down and I want to stare into this painting, because this is no longer an image. It is a window in which it teleports me and draws me into a different world altogether. And that is how that's how powerful I see art. Certain pieces you look at, it's pretty decorative. Oh, it's nice. You just glance by. But there are certain pieces that really hits you, and suddenly you feel like, oh, I'm gonna spend some time. I want to take this in.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take this in. I'm going to be drawn into it. And you can see, for example, Turner's watercolor paintings as well. They are very, very emotive, right? There's a lot of emotions in there. You can feel, John Constable's paintings as well, right? Although they are landscapes, but you
Yeah.
can feel that there is a lot of emotions, the way he paints the scenery, the scenes. And I think a lot of it, you can see John, and at the time when he was painting the countryside, his wife was suffering from emphysema, basically dying when he was painting those scenes, and you can feel there's a sorrow that's being conveyed in some of the landscapes that he did, John Constable did. So, and we are looking at something like this, not just oh, this is a scene, this is the record of this countryside. You're looking at John Constable's inner world being projected on the canvas as well. And that's something that we hope to actually convey. Not just a nice creating something that's nice, but something that's also has got emotional depth and value.
So what I'm trying to convey is that
Yeah,
the little wording that you put in, how well painted it is,
Mm-hmm.
that one I think we need to examine more deeply,
of course, of
because
course.
right now it's just adding on to it. It's just putting more demands on what we're already looking for. I mean, I completely agree with all the different artist names and all the different ways that you can do it. But I think that we need to be more broad-minded about what well painted means.
When Calvin was talking, what I was hearing isn't 100%, isn't a million miles away from what I think you're saying, Tue, that the level of painting and the style and the choices have to be appropriate to what they're trying to do. It's not like it has to be the best. It has to
Yeah.
be appropriate to the kind of feeling they're trying to create.
There should be a balance, I think, between
Yeah.
the technical execution
Yes, correct.
and
That's what was. Yep.
composition, blah 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 blah. All these things that are involved in your miniature, whatever that miniature may be. So maybe technical balance would be.
Yeah, and make room to be electively unrefined in some areas.
Yes.
Well, I think it's a difference. Like, for example, the Impressionists, like, for example, Renoir.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, for example, they are contemporaries, right?
Yeah.
Bouguereau, I think that's another. I don't know. I forgot I can't speak French anyway. So a lot of French artists. You were looking at for the Baroque artists, like the Baroque artists,
Mm-hmm.
and they tend to sort of they tend to refine the transitions. And then when it comes to the Impressionists, they don't. They mix the colors and then they just slap it on there. And when you take a few steps back and you consume the whole the painting as a whole, it gives you an emotion. And if you look at some of the other artists like Ang, for example,
Monet.
Monet. Monet is also pretty loose as well. I mean, it's he doesn't. They don't really blend. They mix the colors and then they put it in there. You can see the brush strokes, but it does give it conveys a sense of movement and emotions as well. And furthermore, the colors are not accurate. They are painting emotions rather than trying to record what's directly in front of them.
Can I interrupt? Tue, you in Versailles, you also saw that saxophone player with all those colors all over the place.
Oh yeah, the jazz player.
You remember that one?
I didn't go to Versailles, but
Oh no, you didn't. Oh no, sorry, you weren't there.
No, I'm one of the clever ones.
Marijn,
I feel better now. I thought I'd missed you.
No, but I mean that's a piece. That's a piece that I think just did exactly, at least to me, because a lot of these things that we just talk about can also be very personal. How you interpret art. But what Calvin said, I mean, that piece really stood out for me. And there may have been a dozen better painted pieces around it. Mm-hmm. But that's exactly, that would be something that I would like to see in this competition.
That's exactly what I mean. It's Carla, by the way. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. It's what? Sorry?
It's Carla.
Oh.
Carla, who she goes to my son's school in Barcelona.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought...
But it's fantastic. It's exactly what I'm looking for. Just to round out the whole Monet thing.
Yeah.
If you paint a World War II tank in Monet, expressionistic.
Could be interesting.
Yeah, it could be interesting, but even though it conveys a lot of feeling, will it be viewed as equal to something done the usual way?
No.
Well, if it's done well, you never know. If it's done well, I mean, it's a big gamble. It's a big gamble, right?
Yes.
If it's done well, I mean, it's a big gamble. It's all or nothing. If it's done well, it's gonna hit the price. But if it's not, if it's not done well, it's gonna fail epically. So it's like it's in or nothing, all or nothing. That's a big gamble, But the things that conceptually, but if you have the idea.
I think it's just important to be open-minded to those kind of things as well.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Yes, I think that's indeed one of the most difficult parts. Having an original, fresh idea can be challenging, but the biggest challenge, well, it's not too hard. Many ideas around, many new things that can be done. The hard part is indeed to sell it, to be able to execute it in a way that people who view it will also accept it. And of course, not everybody will accept it when it's something new, but at least a fair amount of people should get the idea to a certain level. And I think that's the hard part indeed. And it's not so much about technique, but it's indeed about finding that balance in the execution to make it work. And technique plays a part in it,
Yeah.
but it's more about artistic sensibility, I think, from the modeler.
Marijn, I wanted to ask you actually, we've talked a lot about figures, and figures tend to be the side of modelling that people associate more closely with art. But it is possible to make artistic models with ordnance models, for want of a better word. And it's something you've done, and I've seen it. I don't really want to name too many names, but I don't know who's seen Werner de Casemaker's ships. They always have a certain amount of emotion to them, and the seas he puts them on and everything else. And it is just a ship on a sea, yet somehow it conveys that. What do you think about conveying emotion with vehicles rather than with figures?
Well, it is absolutely possible. Figures are often a bit easier because we can relate to them so easily, of course. But vehicles, we can also imbue them with certain human aspects to them. They can also be fresh, new, playful, or they can also be old, derelict, abandoned, forgotten. We can also find some qualities in them that we can relate to in a certain way. Of course, it becomes a bit more easy if we place them in a certain setting, because then we have a bit more elements to get a narrative going around it. What is the environment where the vehicle has been abandoned, for example? We can get a sense of time. How long has it been abandoned? But just by the construction and sometimes deconstruction of vehicles and the paintwork on them, we can also tell a lot of well, I would call it story in that way too. And by telling little stories like that, what happened to the vehicle, what has it been through or not? Well, it's there is also certain emotion attached to it that we can relate to and that we can take out of it. Not as direct, not as powerful as is possible often with figures, but that makes the challenge maybe even more interesting sometimes.
Well, personally, I think, right, a tank or an aircraft, I mean, well, I would consider these pieces as still life rather than,
Yes.
just like ordnance. I mean, you can consider it still life. And there is a way they're being presented, painted even, that can also evoke human emotions as well. I mean, if you look at, let's say, for example, even the design of, let's say, two armored vehicles, okay? If you look at the M5 Stuart, for example, and you compare it with maybe a hunting tiger, Jagdtiger, right? You get a different feel in terms of these two vehicles, not just the size, but in terms of how the colors and all this work. But and the thing is that if you consider, like, for example, ordnance, right? They have been operated by humans, all right? And the thing is that it's been lived in, all right? Whether the pilot on the plane, or a tank with like a crew of five, you can see that there's human interaction with this, what do you call that, with this object. And I think from there you can extrapolate stories from there as well. It's all about dropping signs, as what Moran has said. He put signs there. I know. And look at the tank, right? Most people, what they'll do is, like, for example, like a King Jagdtiger, they will put maybe some percussion. I mean, some rounds that's being hit, not just rust and oil spills, but they'll bang up a fender or two, you know, things like this. All right. Maybe part of the one side of the tank has been raked with small arms fire, and you can see with that there's stories. There's a story with that sort of battle damage being introduced to that.
And on one hand, the vehicle, well, humans interact with the vehicle, and on the other hand, the vehicle also interacts with the rest of the world, with the environment, with the ground,
Yep.
with the soil, with the weather. So you can also put a lot of the time and climate and place of where the vehicle has been operating into your model.
I think just model choice with vehicles as a sort of in itself can give you a lot. Like I went to a tank museum, Musée de Blende, in France, and there was an Israeli, I think, tank, and that one just looked so mean. It looked so evil.
Yeah.
Just big and imposing, and I mean, lots of, especially the First World War tanks, they look kind of silly, and some of
And they're
them
ugly as well.
maybe even joyful. So just by choosing the right vehicle, you can get a lot of emotion.
You know what the
Well,
first tank was called, right?
Yeah, tank.
Little Willie.
Little Willie.
Little Willie.
That's how silly it can be.
well, yeah, as I said, there's certain things like it's a design as well, and as you have responded, to the design, you feel that it looks mean and cartoonish and all this. So if you look at it, some people look at a Churchill, they say it's an ugly looking tank, but some people feel that there's a certain beauty in that ugly looking tank as well, and they model that.
And the things people make and inhabit and use reflect them. So, yeah, like you say, you can use objects to reflect the people associated with them. It could be a chair, it could be a building, it could be a tank, it could be anything. If you keep the human in mind when you're making it, rather than just trying to focus purely on the design of the machine, you can still create that emotion and tell a story.
Yeah, or use the design of the machine. I mean, if you have a big, huge, ugly tank, make it look big, huge, and ugly in the way that you position it on the base or on a slope or whatever, or even if it's a tiny vehicle, whatever it is. I mean, make the viewer look at it and say, "Hey, that's really a tiny vehicle." I mean, there's a lot of ways you can play with it, and I think you need a lot of creativity to come up with original ideas for vehicles in particular. I think you have to be really like it requires, I think, more thought than with
Execution.
figures. Exactly, because yeah, what Marijn said, and I think we all agree that with the figures, it's sort of easier to express anything, an emotion, a feeling, a situation, whatever. So yeah.
Well, but we can combine them, of course, too.
Yes.
And we can, of course, combine figures and vehicles, and
Yes.
that makes it, of course, easier to have the vehicle as one of the actors in the bigger play or in the bigger movie, be one of the elements, and have the figures fill in the rest of the story or pull in the viewer and get the emotion going, with the vehicle still being more than just the background or the scenery or part of the scenery, or the scenery being more than just the scenery, but also important elements in getting the emotion across.
Yeah. But can we agree that we will that there are two subjects that are not done in this competition? That's pointing Germans and tea drinking British soldiers. Shall we not admit those?
Well, we can change it. We have the Germans drinking tea and British pointing. Pointing British soldiers.
Have them drink coffee. Yeah.
Well, as long as they are done in a creative way, I would love to see pointing Germans and tea drinking British.
Of course, I was just kidding. Yeah.
I know.
There are two things I think that I want to get across. This isn't a painting contest,
No.
so it's not about who's the best painter, and it's not a realism contest, so it's not about who does the most historically accurate miniature. That being said, you can paint something really well and enter it, and that's great, and you can make something historically accurate and enter it, it's great, provided there's a bit more to it, provided there's other things going on. So I want to keep it as open as possible. One reason I brought up vehicles is because I want everyone in every genre,
Yes.
including all the traditional modelling ones, armour, aircraft, ships, dioramas, figures, fantasy figures, historical, busts, all of that, plus also other things as well, like science fiction or anything miniature. that is art and could be considered a scale model of, miniature of something, whether that's a building, like an architectural, anything like that at all, is open to this, as long as it's got something to it more than just appearance, basically, more than just it is this object. And I think to go back, Robert, to what you were saying about contests quickly, that's something you and I have talked about. I know. One of the reasons this prize exists as well is because it would not fit into a category at a contest. It's not the kind of thing you can define well enough to brief a judging team on how to judge and have it at a contest. It's at once too broad and at the same time too vague to fit a modelling contest. So contests are like they are because they have to work and you have to have teams of judges that you can recruit to do it.
And there's a time restraint.
Yeah.
More or less.
So, this sort of thing does not fit contests. So we're not really probably looking for models that are aimed at winning medals at contests. We're looking for models that are trying to be a bit different to that. I mean, they might win models at contests. It's not exclusive, but they can.
No, okay, but that also gives the credibility to this contest because, otherwise it would just be an online contest, period.
Yeah, this is not another model contest. Yeah.
No, exactly. No.
I don't entirely agree that it wouldn't fit into a contest, but I see your point.
Sure.
I think that you can make a category at a contest for this kind of stuff, but you need really, really good briefing, and you need non-legal judges, and you need time.
Maybe in the future you could do it, but this is, again, another reason why it doesn't fit contests is because this is something which is in its infancy a bit in modelling, in terms of art in modelling.
In all honesty, Chris, if you bring something unique to the table at any contest, it will stand out and it will be noticed, and it probably will win a prize. It will probably win a prize because, well, unless it's very badly done. But that can happen too. But sorry for doing this to Tue, but Tue has had several pieces in competitions that really stood out, that everybody was saying, hey, have you seen that in that piece? Have you seen that space camel? Have you seen, I'm sorry, I forgot what it was, the black and white, with the black and white background.
Walking library.
Yeah, and that was those were pieces that were different than anything else on the table. And that everybody, most people that were really looking at what was on the table were talking about, have you seen this? Have you seen that? So, yeah, weird stuff.
And most of them were technically not to the same level, like pure execution, as some of the other stuff there. But they bring something different.
Sure. So yeah, I agree with what Tue says, that it doesn't necessarily exclude things from regular competitions.
No, for sure.
But yeah, I think something unique will stand out at any time.
Also, at regular competitions, you can give awards for originality, for example, but maybe in a different way. For a couple of years already at KMK Scale World, we're giving it as a special award. So to one model in the competition, we give the award for the most original model in the competition. You don't look at technique in itself, just at originality. That way, it's not in a category, it's not something you enroll for or you aim for, but it's something that just comes out of the competition as an extra.
It's an encouragement.
As an encouragement, exactly.
And you don't want to disqualify everything that is not out of the box, but you really want to, support new ideas and fresh ideas and this total weirdness as well.
Indeed. But of course, the advantage of an online competition like this one is that we can have a much wider reach. People don't have to travel to the show, and we can aim for the people who really want to aim for a more artistic approach, a more original approach. And people who don't want to do that, well, they can go for another competition, of course. So this online format is I think, quite well suited indeed to this type of contest.
Well, especially because we are looking for different things. I mean, I usually I'm not really that fond of online competitions. I have to be honest, because we all know too well that some things look better on a picture than in real life.
Yeah, for sure.
But that is not the idea of this competition. So that's why I wholeheartedly said yes to Chris's request to join the judging team. So
I couldn't agree more. I think this is an interesting concept for an online competition as opposed to just having a regular competition but online.
yeah, definitely.
All right, so what I'll do now is quickly talk about the practicalities of how people enter. Okay. You cannot enter yourself for this contest. You have to be nominated by someone else. However, it is not a popularity contest. You are as eligible with one nomination as you would be with 1,000 nominations. This is not one of those online contests where most likes wins and all that kind of jive, for want of a better word.
They're so much better, though.
Okay. So you have to be nominated, and I want people to nominate people they think are great. The way you do that is you go to the upturnerprize.com. That's all one word, the Upturner Prize, and you fill out the form and you enter it with a link to have a look at the person's work. I will go along there, take some photos from that, record it for the purposes of the judges. This is not an anonymized contest. All of the judges are perfectly able to put aside any sort of personal bias in terms of who they want to put through and who they do not. So they will know who's entering, or who's entered, should I say, as you can't enter yourself. But we will be then, what we'll do is we'll get together in 3 rounds to reduce it from a long list to a short list, and then finally to a list of finalists. This will take place over the course of about 12 months, a date to be confirmed for the announcement of the prize at the end. Judges will initially decide a list of who they want to put through at each stage, a certain number of nominees at each stage, and then we will come together to discuss the nominees we decided to put through, and between us try and agree on a list to go forward to the next stage. So there's when the judges screen the nominees, that's their provisional list, and then we get together and agree a list between us. Ideally, there'd be some of the same names on all the lists. If not, we might be in trouble. So we'll have to work that out as we go along. The criteria for it, as we've said, is that we're looking for original, different things in modelling. It is not the best painter. It is not the best modeler. It is not the most realistic, or even the most unrealistic for that matter. It is something that really speaks to us on the level of emotional communication, and also, to a certain amount, the level of competency in the execution, although that alone won't get you through to the next stage of the nominations.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Clear as mud.
Will it be possible for non-contestants or just anyone to see what is being nominated?
Yeah. All of the nominees will be posted in a gallery on the website and on the Facebook page for the Upturner Prize, and people will be able to see all of the nominees at every stage of the process. Okay?
Yeah. That'll be really good for people to be able to have access to.
Well, part of this is about celebrating the people that are nominated and about celebrating the work that they're doing. In fact, the whole point of it is that. So winning isn't everything. Being nominated, being put through each stage is a prize in itself. It's all there to share the work of people doing really original and creative things in the hobby. And we want to see those nominations. So please do send them in. All right.
Fantastic.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for taking part.
Thank you.
I can't wait to... Oh, there is one other thing to say. Purely, I kind of thought this went without saying, but just for those listening, none of the people on the panel or myself are eligible for this prize.
Okay.
Okay, we're not voting for ourselves. It's not going to be one of us that wins it or any of that. So
no, that's a bummer.
Yeah, sorry guys. So so an extra special thank you for taking part.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
No problem.
Good night, Calvin. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
So there we have it. Now, how do you nominate? You go to the upturnerprize.com and fill out the form, entering the name of the person you wish to nominate and a link to their work, and add a few lines of why you think they deserve to be considered for the Upturner Prize. A few months from now, the panel will meet for our first shortlisting of all the nominations. We'll go through every nomination, one by one, and we'll check them to see who we wish to take forward through to the next stage. Following that will be a second stage to whittle it down to a shorter list. A few months later, we'll agree a list of finalists and choose a winner. You can find out more at theupturnerprize.com or on Facebook on the Upturner Prize Facebook page. During the competition, people will have their nominations posted on the Upturner Prize page and on the Upturner Prize website so that you can check out all the artwork for yourself and see what people are doing and see what's being considered. This is a way we can celebrate all these fantastic artists in the hobby and encourage this creative and unusual approach to modelling. The prize winner will receive a special prize courtesy of AK Interactive. This is the full range of their 3rd gen generic acrylic colours. A fantastic prize for any modeller in any genre. So please do go along, have a look at the website and find out a bit more. And please do nominate artists that you feel could be in consideration for the Upturner Prize. Scale Model Challenge is one of the best shows in the modelling calendar, with a world-leading contest, workshops with people like Peter Usher, Fabrizio Russo, Mamikon, Anna Machowska, Francesco Farabi and more, and a huge variety of unique exhibitors offering everything from new fantasy and historical miniatures to new and unusual kit releases, books, tools, paints and so much more. SMC is where the best modellers in the world, from beginners to well-established artists, come to share their passion for all things miniature. I'll be there with the Model Philosopher and I hope to see you all there too. You can find out more at scalemodelchallenge.com or on the socials.